Hello, it's Ashley with At Home with Ashley, and today we're going to make a dollhouse coat. So I saw this one on Instagram and it's $900 and it's so fun, but I'm not paying $900 for a coat, so I thought I'll make my own. My sister thrifted me a coat for $12. It's a cute base, and now I just need to make the elements that'll make it look like a dollhouse. So for this project, I bought a pattern on Etsy, and it's so cute, but just so you know, you can only use it if you're using an embroidery machine. You could totally do this project and hand stitch everything, but because I have an embroidery machine and I want it to look as professional as possible, that's the route I'm gonna go. For this project, I bought some really thick merino wool, and that will be really nice to use. I'm also using just some of the thinner, like cheap 59-cent felt you can get from the craft store. So the first thing we got to do is figure out our layout for the room, and I'm thinking we're going to do the dining room, and the background will be this pink. So this will be like what the wall color is. And for each room, you're going to use half of a sheet of the 9x12 felt. So that's the back, and then I'm thinking for the floor I will do like this kind of brown heathered look, and that will look like a wood floor. And we also need a tablecloth. I really like this cotton calico fabric, and so I think that would be really cute. And then the chair is just going to be gold stitching, and I think the only other fabric I need to figure out is a pot, and I think the mint will be good, so that'll balance everything out. I have everything started, so let's get working on using the embroidery machine. So for this project, the first thing you need to do is use stabilizer. Whenever you're doing embroidery, you start with stabilizer. So I just need to cut a piece to length, and I'm trying to use as little of this as possible while having the right amount, because you know, you don't want to waste your resources. So I'm going to cut this down, and we're going to get a piece in the embroidery machine. And how my loop works is the bottom has this little arrow, and you put a piece in, and then we're going to put this other part on top, and the arrow matches the other one. We got to loosen this up and get it in. Okay, so I'm gonna just push this in, and you want it really tight, but it's too tight to go in. So I'm gonna keep loosening our little thing until it goes in, tightening it, and then I'm just going to trim around the outside so I only have the stabilizer I need, because I can get a few sheets of stabilizer out of this for our project. If you're doing this project, the first space you should start with, or room, is really at the front porch, because there's no interactive elements. All of the other ones, like there's a bathtub and you put the doll in it. But because of those interactive elements, you have to do a few different hoops with stitching on it, and this one you only have to do one. So it's like more beginner friendly, but I'm going to walk you through one that has two different hoopings so that you can kind of see how you make those interactive elements, because it wasn't super obvious to me at first, but it's totally doable. So we are going to stitch up the dining room first, and when you are doing a room with an interactive element, you always want to stitch up that element first, not the room. So we're going to do the tablecloth, and we're going to put in the hoop with the stabilizer on it. You can see it trimmed down, and I'm going to load it in, and I'm going to send the pattern from the app on my phone to the sewing machine. So the first thing it's gonna stitch is just gonna be the outline of the tablecloth. I'm gonna push play so oops, I always forget this. I didn't put my presser foot down, so the app is just warning me, put the presser foot down. And now what it's doing is this is the outline for the tablecloth. So we'll be able to put the fabric on top of this. And while this is stitching, I also have my laptop open with the instructions so I can follow them as I stitch everything together. So that is stitched down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the fabric on top, or you can use felt, that we are using for the tablecloth. So I put my presser foot back down, and then I just push play again, and this is going to stitch the tablecloth fabric down. So while that's stitching, you can see on the app, it just kind of shows you how far you have to go. So it's kind of fun, because it's like they're working together, and you can just sit here and watch it stitch up your perfect little room. Be a little bit hard to see because I used a pattern, but this is what we just stitched, the tablecloth. So on the back you can also see the stitching, and then all you're going to do is you're going to put fabric or felt on top of it, and to hold it in place I like to use double-sided tape, and I'm just going to tape it in a few places. I don't want to get the tape on the edge where it could touch the needles and kind of get that gunked up. I'm just going to cover this with that and bring it back to the machine and finish the stitching on both sides. What you see the machine doing right now, it looks like it's just going over what it went before, but it's actually tacking down your back material for the tablecloth. Okay, the tablecloth is done. Here's the front and here's the back. I had a little issue where the fabric came down. I've never had that issue with felt, so it probably would have been better to use felt in this instant. But I'm just going to trim it close. It's the back. It does not really matter. So I'm just taking it out of the hoop, and then I am going to use scissors to trim around. So you want to get nice and close, but not cut your stitches, which I've done before, and not like it's a total fail. And you're just going to cut around. Okay, here's how the tablecloth turned out. Very cute. And then I have my hoop filled with stabilizer, and we're ready to stitch up the back of the room. Okay, we're going to start the dining room by outlining the room with positioning stitches, and this is just on the stabilizer. And then we're going to put felt for the paint color of the room, so this is the pink that we chose before, and the machine will tack it into place. Next, we're going to outline the floor with positioning stitches, and I am just using white string for all of this because you won't really tell a difference, and rethreading your machine is kind of a pain. So now we're going to put felt on the floor on top of the stitches, and we're going to use a scrap that's too big because we're going to trim it later, and don't do something too small or else you'll have problems. And note the string on the app doesn't match what you use or what the girl used who sold this pattern, so it's important to plan colors ahead of time and follow along with the PDF so you can use the appropriate colors. We're going to trim the felt for this, and for that I got these specific scissors, and because they're curved you can get really close. I was using normal embroidery scissors, which work okay, but these make such a difference. And if you look at the pattern I used, a lot of the people who reviewed it did a crappy job on trimming it. I'm not trying to be rude, but it was just something I noticed that it looked really ragged. So as you go, you need to trim certain areas, and the instructions will tell you that, and make sure to do it and do it well. So right here, you want to trim the top of the floor because other elements will be hitting it, and if you don't, you will have problems. Okay, so on this doll, I didn't trim her white fabric. So picture white fabric everywhere. I didn't trim it before doing these stitches. And so now you can see, like, I tried to cut it close, but there's like just a little bit of white right here, white right there. It looks bad. So you got to trim it where another element will hit it. I don't need to trim right here, and I don't like to trim more than I have to because it's kind of a pain when it's in the hoop, and I like to do it after. But this is trimmed nicely, so we can start with the next step. Next, we're going to use the machine to do positioning stitches for the picture pocket, and we're going to do clear vinyl on top of that. You're just going to tack it down in place. This is so later you can put a picture in this pocket, whatever you want. Trim the vinyl so that it's not outside any of the lines, and then stitch the scallop picture frame around the clear vinyl pocket. I decided to do everything on this page in white, and it saves a lot of time without having to change out the thread. So I'm also doing the chair in white, and I'm stitching the shelf in white. Next are the positioning stitches for the flower pot. I'm going to put my blue felt on top of that and tack it down, and then trim the excess once that's tacked down. And the only time I am changing the thread is now. I'm going to have green plants, so stitch those in place. Now it's time to do the positioning stitches of the table. And to put the tablecloth in the right spot, you just make sure it's lined up over the lines and tape it down. You don't want this to get crooked because this is your last final piece. And then use the machine to tack it down. So I don't put felt on the back. This is something you would do if you were going to make this a busy book. And I don't stitch holes for the book. So that's where you'd have like binder rings. So I skip both of those steps, and instead I take the felt off the hoop and I trim everything. It takes a while to clean up all like the little stitches, but it's also fun. Be careful to not over trim, and then you can play with it because it's a cute little table for your doll. I was using a different coat. It didn't work because of the pockets, so I switched to this one. It's a cashmere coat I got from the antique store, and I wear it all the time. So I know it fits well, which the other one was not fitting great. And I pinned everything on it. It's looking really cute. I made 8 pages, but only 6 fit on this one, so that's kind of a downside, but it's really cute. So now all I have to do is hand stitch every piece on, which seems like it'll take a while, and then I can show you the result. The dollhouse coat is done, and I am so excited to show it to you. It took me days of stitching. Each room took me over an hour. I did 8, even though I ended up only using 6, and then stitching it up took a few hours. But now I have my dream coat. It is so cute. I put it on, my husband's like, that's a coat you already had, but it's never looked more like you before, which I love that. It's really fun. It kind of gives Polly Pocket vibes. Like, you can move the girl into different rooms. She can wash the laundry. She has a pet. You can change her outfit. It's very fun. I'm hoping when I go out, my friends or like family who has little kids, that they will also enjoy this coat. Or I feel like adults also will, because I have fun like repositioning it and just looking at all the different rooms. And from the back, it is formal. You can't even tell it's fun, but from the front, it is very whimsical, and I am just thrilled with how it turned out. The colors are great, and it's actually a little bit warmer because I literally added wool to a cashmere coat, so it's nice and warm. I want to know from you, would you try this coat? Would you just try making a busy book if you have a little child in your life? What room would you put on your coat, or would you do a bunch like I did? Let me know in the comments, or if you have any questions at all. If you're not already, please subscribe, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up.